Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick.
Well, safety at large-scale events is of paramount importance, and as a result, it is big business all over the world. One Irish company that is at the forefront of safe events internationally is Safe Events Global, and its strategic director, Mark Breen, joins us now to tell us about its success. Mark, I'd like to start the interview by getting an insight into your own career.
Morning, Karl. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I went to UL back in the day, 1999, from Ballinasloe in Galway. A lot of us headed to UL on buses every weekend. And while there, I got involved. I had already been involved in security work a little bit and got involved with a safety and security team who worked for the Students' Union in UL and then worked at all the UL events, if that makes sense. So got involved in that, was involved in that through the few years I was in UL, was also a lifeguard and trained people as lifeguards while I was in UL. So this kind of safety, minding people thing was always, I guess, an element of what I was doing. And that just happened to coincide with kind of the time that big festivals, it was the early 2000s, so big festivals, big concerts started to really become a thing in Ireland. And we were lucky that team in the college were one of the first to go through what was the security licensing training in Ireland at the time. So I was then able to go out to the market, kind of find out who was doing security for all these festivals, and start to get a lot of the people working in the college for us jobs during the summer. And it just all kind of grew from there, to be honest.
Okay, so that's really what the nucleus was behind setting up Safe Events Global. So talk to us now about the services that you provide today.
I mean, what we do is we describe ourselves, we're event people. So we work predominantly in the event and entertainment industry. So we're event people who focus on safety, if that makes sense. So if you can imagine any festival that you or your listeners have ever been to, and you're looking at stages, you're looking at tents, you're looking at speakers, all sorts of things. They've all been built. People have hopefully built them safely. We're the people who do all the planning for that, make sure that they are built safely. And one of the things that kind of makes us a little bit different, I guess, is that we do that kind of safety. So we do the safety you're picturing like as a construction site, that kind of safety, make sure people wear hard hats if they need to, make sure they're being safe at height. We do all that. But we also do the crowd safety side of things. So we do crowd dynamics, crowd flows, designing sites so that they work for 50,000, 150,000 people, however many people. So we're unusual in that we do both of those.
And Mark, something that's often said to me by employers across industries is that safety in Ireland has become hugely bureaucratic.
I would say that's fair. I mean, it can be extremely bureaucratic. The red tape, all of that can be extremely frustrating. If you think about what we do working in the industry we work in, predominantly we're busiest in the Irish market during the summer. So you think of the festival season, you think when everything ramps up, there's loads of festivals, there's concerts, there's all that kind of stuff going on. And then if you think about it from a supplier perspective, if you're the people building the stage or you're the people providing the tent, you are often on different event sites each day. You're running from one to the other. You're putting all these things up. And you have the likes of us, in theory, chasing you for risk assessments and method statements and paperwork. So we know those pain points because we're event people first and safety people second. So a lot of how we do what we do has kind of led us to take some of that pain away, make it as straightforward as it can be for those suppliers.
So how have you gone about streamlining the bureaucracy that surrounds health and safety at events?
I have a full digital operations department with 6 people full time, and they develop things for us like dashboards and portals. So say, Karl, you're coming and building a stage at a festival we're involved in, and we're in charge of getting all your paperwork. We make it as easy as someone on our digital ops team will reach out to you once we understand the scope, what you're supposed to deliver. We'll then have safety people who will decide what paperwork we need from you or what conversations need to have. Our digital team reaches out, directs you to a portal where you can just upload all the stuff. There are samples, there are templates, there's advice, there's detail. It's actually a resource, as opposed to what typically happens is you'll have a poor safety person thrown onto a site who is also doing all that chasing. We want our safety people focusing on safety on the ground, so we have a separate department that largely do the interaction around getting in your paperwork.
Mark, the company is now turning over $5 million a year with 25 staff. How much of this growth can be attributed to the company's presence in the Middle East market?
I looked at some figures recently for something we were doing, and we were sitting down with my financial controller. About 80% of what we do is derived from the international market now.
How easy was it to get in and grow the business in the Middle East? And how did you go about it?
It was easy enough. It sounds silly. It was easy enough for us in that we started going out to the Middle East in 2017, when we got, coincidentally, or actually not coincidentally, we launched the brand Safe Events Global in 2017. So within a couple of days, we had an email from a guy that I now know I was connected with on LinkedIn, who ran an event company in Saudi Arabia, who knew me from LinkedIn. But it wasn't until we launched that brand that was quite clearly, and that website that clearly focused on safety, that we made sense to him. Our previous website, award-winning and everything as it was not screaming, we're the safety people to him. So we knew that, and we knew people were thinking that. So we launched a new brand. He got in touch and basically said, we have a problem for an event out here we need your help with. And without being silly, we got a deposit, knew it was real, and then myself and my business partner, Martin, went out there and started working on projects. The real escalation for us in the Middle East came in just January 2021, when I got a phone call from the States saying there's this huge project this guy was involved in. Would I jump on a call with the master planning team and with a view to potentially coming on board to lead on the safety side? I agreed to jump on the call. It sounded like a great project. And as I sat on the call and started Googling the people or the companies on there that I didn't know, I very quickly realized that the caliber of company involved with this particular client were all the best of the best. It was the making of us internationally.
And how different is it doing business in the Middle East?
It's different in lots of ways, and it's the same in many ways. A lot of our business is in Saudi Arabia, and the Saudis are very much like the Irish. It's about relationships. It's about, community. It's all that kind of vibe. So the Irish do quite well out there. We work well. We think similarly. Business is done a little bit differently. Timelines, deadlines, meeting times would not be as solid as they might be this side of the world. And I remember when we went out the very first time, I met with the Irish ambassador out there at the time and some of the people on the ground from Enterprise Ireland, and we had that type of meeting you have when you go into these markets, and it's shaking hands and you say hello and you get some advice. But when I was leaving, the phone rang, and it was the ambassador giving me a ring to essentially tell me, here's what I couldn't say in the room, which is really helpful when you hit a new market like that. So he gave us some great advice, and one of the key things was around how they do payments out there, and how his advice was along the lines of get a 70% deposit and in some ways be comfortable if the 30% balance never comes. Because in the Middle East, they'll probably pay you the balance when they need you the next time, if that makes sense. And when they do come back the next time, it gets paid really quick. There's no drama. It's just that's kind of how it works.
What about scaling the business from here? What are your plans in that regard?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, there's so much more to do in the Middle East. I think if we only stayed in the Middle East, we could do quite well. We've only very recently, this might actually be the first time I've admitted this publicly, we've only very recently signed our first permanent kind of ongoing UK client. I think we will slowly develop there. There are a few big sporting events that are well known and move around the world that we're making inroads into working directly with as well. Training is a huge thing for us. We fund a lot of training for the Irish market and internationally, but largely for the Irish market. But again, we charge for training as well because we're experts in a very niche area. So we do a lot of training, which I think we can grow. And the other thing I'm always conscious of, all this international expansion is one thing, but I mean, we're an Irish company. We're headquartered here. We have a Saudi company now that covers the Middle East, and we have an office out there, but we'll always be an Irish company. So I think there's a lot more we can probably do here to take a lot of this safety headache from, other event companies and DMC companies that are bringing big events into the country. So I think there's a bit of a focus in the next year and 18 months that we'll put on on servicing that element of the Irish market.
And Mark, finally, I do want to speak to you about your commitment to the community, because lots of companies, their commitment is at a local level, but your commitment is within the events. Provide us with an insight into that.
A lot of our staff have causes and volunteering things that they're involved in that we like to support, but we're very event focused. It's what we love. So we're always looking for opportunities to kind of support the industry. So one of the simplest things we do that has impact globally is we do these lost child wristbands, is what they're traditionally called, or vulnerable person wristbands. So they're like the normal Tyvek wristbands you get when you go into a festival and the girl or boy slaps it on your wrist. So we print hundreds of thousands of these each year, and then we send them all around the world. We cover the costs. So the volunteer festival in Nova Scotia can fill in a form, ask for 500 of these. You know, they probably don't have a budget. They're probably scraping the bottom of the barrel for everything they can do. So we send these all around the world.
Well, if you've just tuned in, that was Mark Breen from Safe Events Global. And it's great to see an Irish business leading the way in the international arena of event management.
Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick.